What is up, guys? Taiki here, and welcome to episode 8 of the Crypto Market Wizards podcast. Today, I have here with me Ansem. How are you doing today?
Yo, what's good? How we doing, man?
Nice. So, I don't think you need an intro, but do you mind telling us how you got into trading crypto and what you do now?
Yeah, I've been trading crypto since 2017. So I got into it originally. I went to Georgia Tech. I was studying computer science there. My minor was in business, and for my business minor, I had a class on emerging technologies. And one of my classes, like one of the focuses, was on Bitcoin, and that was like 2016. Yeah, so 2016, that's when I first like started learning about crypto. I didn't buy any back then, but had just an awareness of it. And then when I graduated, I was working as a software engineer. Um, and my mentor there was a huge crypto guy. So that's when I started trading it. And I was like working as a software engineer, trading crypto on the side, and did that basically from 2017 to 2021. In mid 2021, full time crypto, trading anything and everything that moved in the markets, like perps, on chain stuff, DeFi, um, basically anything in crypto that you could trade. I was trading it. So did that basically until now. Yeah, both been full-time trading crypto.
Nice, yeah, and you have been trading anything and everything that does move. It feels like the past couple of months, or I guess Q4, it's been pretty crazy. Like, what's your read on the markets right now?
Dude, it's been nuts. So I honestly expected Q4 to be bearish. I thought we were gonna get a more deeper pullback on alts and Bitcoin before the ETF approval um early in Q1. I thought we were gonna rip more towards like the end of Q4. And literally like right at the beginning of as soon as October, almost like a mid-October started, everything just started ripping. Like Solana ripped off the lows. I was expecting us to get like 15. It stopped at like 19 and just completely ripped it. Um, so yeah, I think Q4 has been a good barometer for what you can expect next year with how crypto I think is going to perform. We've seen a lot of altcoins do well. Like most have been down 90%, going sideways since mid 2022, and these accumulation ranges are starting to break out to the upside. So we're getting a lot of new trends across the board on some alts. Solana was one of the first ones that lead um, out of the bear. We just seen some good strength. Like this past week, we even saw some break new all-time highs. Like Injective made a higher high than it did last cycle, which is pretty crazy considering how early I think we are. Bitcoin also at like 44K, overage range from 25K to like what 20K, or was that most of the year? Um, but yeah, right now I think we've ripped pretty hard. Like you've seen a lot of altcoins go 5x plus. See meme coins rip. Bitcoin's kind of consolidating a bit around 40K. I think we're probably going to see some more consolidation in Q1. I think this latest rally from 25K like 44K is kind of the market pricing in that 90% approval of the spot ETF in January. So I think we're probably going to get some sideways in Q1 action since we've ripped so hard in Q4. But the rest of the year, 2024, I think you'll see a lot of other altcoins start to break their all-time highs. And just strength throughout the market as crypto starts like continues to recover from fucking 2022's craziness.
I think we both agree that we're in the early stages of a bull market. What do you think the next cycle looks like? We've seen, like you said, Injective and Alt L1 just rip to new all-time highs. Do you think the L1 trade works again, or like how do you think new things will pump, like new sectors? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the L1 trade is going to work again simply because I think there's still some features that you can't do on ETH mainnet that you can do on these other L1s. So Solana currently can do a lot more throughput than ETH can, and is a lot cheaper than ETH for like all the transaction fees because of how it's designed. There's just some other L1s that are claiming to be the same. We'll see how they do it when they go to mainnet. But as long as Solana is more performant than ETH and also ETH L2s and cheaper, you're going to see a lot of builders continue to build on Solana for the applications that they think it's best suited for. So I think it's still going to continue to happen. And then just generally, the market, I think, we're still in a stage where crypto has seen, I think, product market fit with DeFi and a few other things, but not to the point where we have tons of applications with millions of users on a like recurring basis. And until we see that, people are going to be trying to figure out, okay, which L1 works the best for that future where that's going to exist. So I think the trade is going to continue to work until we're at that like more mature state in crypto. And we've also seen it a little bit this year with Celestia already. So Celestia is like a new modular modular blockchain focused on data availability specifically for rollups. But I think it's similar to the L1 trade last cycle because nobody knew whether Solana was going to work or not. Like there were not any applications on it early when the trade started working in 2021. There really wasn't much there. And the same way where Celestia now, like there's not that many rollups built on top of it in production on mainnet right now, but people are predicting in the future that these rollups will be able to use Celestia for cheaper data availability. And with that thesis are bidding Celestia. So it's up, what, like 6x, I think, in the past month or so, whatever.
Like 2 to 12.
Yeah, 2 to 12s, exactly. And it's like there's not really that much there yet. So I think that's indicative of the trades that people are going to take next year. Like there's still a lot of other L1s that have different innovations they're working on. Stuff like Say is working on the parallelized EVM. Monad's also working on a parallelized EVM. A lot of other chains that are like these next gen chains are just working on technical innovations that should put them ahead of ETH performance wise. So I think the trade will still work out.
Yeah, it feels like this year, like most of 2023, people have bear market PTSD, and people weren't willing to bet on future growth. But I think as animal spirits return to the markets, they're becoming more forward looking, and the market cares more about growth than it does like value right now. And even TIA, right? I think people are starting to price in the potential for staking TIA to receive airdrops. And if you look at the buying, like the holder base of TIA, they're just staking it for the airdrops. Like they don't really care what the USD value is. So like it's just like inflows versus outflows. There's so many inflows, and it seems like that's also happening for things like Solana.
Dude, it's so funny how cyclical it is. In bear markets, people are like, only Bitcoin and ETH aren't scams. And then as soon as the bull market happens, everybody's like, bid anything, bid any altcoin. It's funny, bro. Nah, it's very cyclical in that way.
Like in the last bear market, or like in the most recent bear market, I thought like the alt L1 trade was dead, just because everything just died or like crashed. But if you think about it, like if you look at ETH and L2s now compared to 2 years ago at the top, like it's not that different, right? Like mainnet still doesn't scale, Arbitrum and Optimism still look the same. The top application on zk Sync is SyncSwap. Like it's still kind of, I mean, I kind of find it embarrassing at this point. So I feel like I'm becoming more open to the idea of L1s working. And people are just like bidding L1s over app tokens. Do you think app tokens can recover, or do you think that most of the bid is going to go into like some more infrastructure?
I think the app layer is honestly the most interesting part for me this cycle, because I want to see what other stuff we can build out besides just pure DeFi lending and borrowing. That was like the biggest thing. I think the biggest innovation last cycle. Well, that and maybe NFTs, but we have the core DeFi primitives now, where it's like we have an AMM. Okay, we have lending and borrowing protocol. We have like stablecoins backed by like U.S. Treasuries and other real world assets, which is cool. But then it's like, what other applications can we build in crypto? So what social applications, what like decentralized physical infrastructure apps, like there's our whole AI sector now. I think there's a ton of different cool things that we're going to be able to do this cycle because we have the technical infrastructure now under the hood to be able to build a lot cooler applications outside of just simple DeFi stuff. So that's what I'm honestly the most excited about. I think that's what's going to surprise people the most. Everybody's always like crypto is just for gambling. But then you see stuff like Helium and stuff like Hive Mapper, which are trying to compete with these big Web 2 systems. Like, I think there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to happen this cycle in that regard.
Yeah, no, I really like Deepin because you can't fork Helium, right? You can fork AMMs, you can fork lending markets, add tokens on top, and Vampire Attack, but how do you can't fork Helium? And literally when they announced the $20 a month mobile plan thing, like I bought the $250 mining thing so I can kind of experience what it's like. But then I should have just bought the token because it's like it ripped like 2x in like
Yeah.
48 hours.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely insane.
Yeah, I feel like we do need to be the power users of all of these. Like, I honestly haven't done it as much as I want to. I have the Solana phone and some of those applications, but so I will have the Helium like network, get to try that out. But yeah, I think we should be the first people setting up nodes for all these like decentralized AI, who are using like decentralized compute, all that stuff, like setting up the mapper to drive around with Hive Mapper, like setting up the nodes for Helium. I think that should be stuff that like us as active users in crypto should be the first people to use and first people to talk about. Because if we're not using the applications, who else is going to be using them outside of like just crypto people? But yeah, we should be the power users for sure. But yeah, dude, I was surprised. I saw that post, and it was like $20 whatever US cell plan coverage in the entire US, and the coin didn't even move. I was like, what? Why is nobody paying attention to this? So I bought some and like retweeted the fucking thing, and people were like, wait, dude, how did you know this happened? I'm like, what are you guys looking at all day? But yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah. Speaking of looking at things all day, I feel like you're looking at things all day on Twitter, like 24/7. How do you like how do you like use Twitter? Like I don't understand how you're always online and like how do you find these new ideas?
Well, dude, I've always been hella online. Like even before I was really in crypto. Like I played video games a lot when I was a kid. Played World of Warcraft, played League of Legends. Like I was a Tumblr kid. I was always online. I was on Twitter before I was even doing crypto, so I tweeted a lot before that. And then my first cycle in crypto, like 2017, I learned how to trade basically from everybody on Twitter. So it was like all my information flow was coming from the best traders on CT. But then like as I got more and more into crypto, you get better at like figuring out your information flow. I feel like my timeline I've built over a long period of time, and it's kind of like the algo pushes me things from all different areas of crypto. But I also have lists that I use on Twitter. So I have lists for like Cosmos, lists for Solana, lists for AVAX stuff, like deep end stuff. And I go through those, like I use TweetDeck now, but I can scroll through a lot of information really quickly, like specific to certain sectors in crypto and just pull information from that. So I do that a lot. I honestly don't watch podcasts as much as I should. I feel like I should do that more. That's how you go like deeper on stuff. The Hive Mapper one I watched was good recently with Lightspeed, but yeah, I have a ton of lists, and I'm basically always on my phone. Like I'm always checking.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to, figure out your information flow, but it's another thing to digest it and then turn it into financial bets, right? How would you characterize your trading style? And how does it differ from, I guess, what others do in the markets?
I feel like I'm pretty like schizo with my trading style. So now I kind of have a separate, I have like separate portfolio for long term stuff and then separate portfolio for short term stuff. So I said this a lot this year. Like I think you should have 70% of your portfolio dedicated to longer term spot holds, whether that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe it's Coinbase stock, maybe it's Solana. For me, it's mostly Solana, BTC coin. And then you can focus the 30% of your portfolio on the more degenerate things. So I may have a strong thesis on this altcoin for the next month or 2 months because of some fundamental event that's coming up. Plus, the chart looks good. I know it's going to break out or likely to break out, but I don't know if I want to hold it for 12 months. So that's scenarios where I can try and flip multiples on alts into other multiples and chain them together. So that's basically how I trade with the smaller portions of my portfolio. And that's like really the news trading, like the on-chain stuff, the DeFi stuff, the lower cap stuff, doing all of that. That's like the active trading. But the rest of your time building out that 70% is doing research for longer periods of time and thinking, okay, what makes sense to hold for 12 months plus or like 6 months plus, that I'm not really going to be worried about holding through a 30% dip or worried about going sideways for a while because I have a strong thesis on its future. That's kind of how I think through it. But yeah, I also journal a lot. So you have a lot of different sectors and narratives in crypto, and most of the time they're not all pumping at the same time. So when L1s are doing really well, then maybe the deep end plays aren't doing really well. Maybe L2s aren't doing really well. And how attention shifts in crypto, if you can get good at predicting where it's going to go next and where it isn't at currently, you can kind of be ahead of these plays while you're actively trading. So like in the back of my head, it's like I know the trades that I'm in, but I'm also thinking of, okay, what trades am I going to take next? So what are people not talking about now? But I know these teams are all building at the same time. So it's been like multiple years that all these teams are doing the work, building out these applications and these protocols, but the market only focuses their attention on them in like separate periods of time. Usually, this market is differentiated now in a way that not everything pumps at the same time, which is great for traders, but I feel like it can be like it can be upsetting for builders because they're like, okay, we're doing all this work, but nobody's paying attention to that this is happening, and sometimes it just takes a while for that to drip through, I guess. But that's generally how I think about it.
Got it. Yeah. So you have over 2/3 of your portfolio into core holdings, and then with the rest, you know, do whatever you think makes sense from the short-term time horizon. And you said something interesting about, you know, like trying to front run where attention shifts. Obviously, that's easier said than done. How do you predict these things? Is it more news flow, catalysts, fundamentals based? How do you think about attention in crypto and how social media affects it?
Honestly, it's a combination of things. Like I had no idea how to do it my first cycle. Like I just held alts essentially while Bitcoin was ripping. Bitcoin 2017, Bitcoin went from 3K to like 19.5K. And I had some Bitcoin, but I was mostly in alts the entire time. And I was kind of like, I was flat, kind of a little bit down in USD value, but my BTC value was down just immensely the entire year. And I wasn't even really paying attention to that because I didn't know I didn't know how to play things the correct way. But after you see how these cycles work, and like after following people and figuring out where the money flow typically, how it happens in crypto, you know that when majors are pumping and altcoins are going sideways, it's like, okay, well, majors just 2x. There's a lot of people with a lot of capital who just made that much on their money. If traders made whatever XYZ, they're taking profit now. What are they going to rotate into next? And you typically, it's a combination of TA and fundamental analysis. But the plays that I really like are when you have a chart that's like been going sideways in accumulation, and then you have a fundamental like catalyst coming up at the same time that you have another chart or most other sectors that just went 4 or 5x. So it's like, okay, if somebody's taking profit on this, there's already a ton of other people who have been accumulating this separate altcoin. And then you have the momentum traders that ride things as these breakouts happen. And breakouts in crypto in bull markets can be super strong. So that's typically how I think about it generally. But yeah, news is also a big thing. News and FA stuff in combination with TA.
Yeah, like I really enjoy, you know, you do two things really well, right? You have like this longer term Solana thesis, and then on the side, you're like buying gaming coins, AI coins, meme coins, and you seem to be rotating, or you know, these trading rotations pretty well. How do you build like longer term theses? So, for example, you know, you're a big Solana guy, and you were talking about it, you know, way before, even post FTX, talking about it before everyone else, and now it seems more mainstream slash consensus. Like how do you build like conviction, and how do you know when you're wrong versus like when you're right?
I think for figuring out when you're wrong is the hardest part. It can be a
Yeah.
time sink. But I mean, my conviction in Solana was a combination of things. I've been following Solana for a long time, like since early 2021. So I had seen the issues the network had with its downtime. I'd seen how little applications were on it in 2021, and then I saw basically the growth of Solana and all these new teams building on it. I saw the upgrades they made to mainnet in 2022, and then I was at Breakpoint in late 2022 and was just talking to teams there, kind of like being on the ground, getting that experience and insight directly from people was big for me. So I knew that FTX and Sam wasn't really at the forefront of everybody's minds who was building on Solana. And I knew that on the technical side, they'd fixed a lot of the issues that were plaguing the chain previously. So it's a combination of those things. As far as how I know, and then like I guess it's a combination with thinking through what crypto is going to look like in 10 years rather than what crypto looks like right now. So if you just take crypto in 2023, there's not that many daily active users using all these protocols, maybe like whatever. I mean, probably less than 50K for most of DeFi stuff, if that. But if you're thinking about the future and you think crypto is going to be competitive with all these Web2 behemoths, you think millions of people are going to be actively using these protocols like daily, then your outlook on what applications and what blockchains make the most sense in those scenarios looks different than somebody who's purely thinking about present day. And that's what I think about a lot because I'm a super long-term bull on crypto. If you look at any these trends where we've had a ton of innovation historically, it's not always the first winner that wins out long term. We have stuff like in early 2000s, what was like Yahoo versus Google. It's like one big one. It'd be like Apple versus Microsoft, like all those different things where it wasn't clear at the beginning what was going to make the most sense. Like if you go and read back articles on the iPhone and like the Mac, there's a ton of people who are like, this makes no sense. Like it's not going to work long term. And like may have been consensus at the time that was the truth. So it's not always the case that what the consensus idea is on some new innovative technology is right. And you kind of have to have that thought process when you're thinking about longer term investments, I think just generally in tech. So it's kind of where I was coming from thinking through it. But as far as figuring out when you're wrong, there's a few different things. For Solana specifically, it would be, I guess, like negative for my thesis if the chain continued to have issues with downtime. So it's been up right now for the past like 10 months straight, I think, with no real issues. But if it did start to have issues, even after all the fixes it pushed in 2022, then I might need to reevaluate the thesis and see where I could be wrong or how they respond to those things. And then also just like price wise, if the market is not reflecting what your bullish theses are, then it may be time to reevaluate also. So it's like if you're holding stuff, like there are people who are holding stuff like, I don't know, like Litecoin or stuff like Ripple and like gigabulls on Litecoin and Ripple, but they underperform every single altcoin cycle after cycle, year over year, and are down only against Bitcoin in basically in perpetuity. So it's like if the market is not agreeing with you on what your theses are, you probably need to check and see why that is, or if it's really just like a time-based thing. But if it's consistently like month over month, year over year, probably not right.
I think what some of the mistakes people make is that they trade their opinion, right? They don't trade the markets. They just think, okay, like XRP has to be the global settlement layer for banks, and like they don't look at anything else. And if it goes up like 50% in a year, then they're like happy with it, right? So they're kind of getting what they want from the markets. And I want to I kind of want to dig deeper into what you mentioned earlier around, like I guess what you see online or like what's consensus is not actually reality. I think the first time we met was at the Solana hackathon, and I forget when exactly it was, but I think Solana like token was like under $20. If you go on Twitter, like all the ETH maxis are like, oh, Sol is dead. But if you actually go to the hackathon, there's so many developers building. Do you think there's kind of this echo chamber in crypto Twitter where a lot of the big accounts are just ETH maxis? So everything that you see online is around ETH, but in reality, that's not really the truth. Like, do you think there's like some level of truth around like, let's say ETH propaganda? Like, how do you think about like various echo chambers in crypto, and how do you not fall into the trap of being in these echo chambers?
I think the echo chambers happen when price goes up. Honestly, dude, like you have those echo chambers form around Bitcoin. It's first like in its early days, and everybody was so confirmed by price going up in their idea that they were like, "Oh, I'm up this much XYZ. I was clearly right. Nothing else is can be as right or is comparable." And a lot of the early Bitcoin guys were the same way against ETH. When ETH came out, they're like, "Yo, the ETH is a waste of time. Why do we need this?" In the same way that a lot of the ETH guys, they heard that from all the Bitcoin people. So they had that situation where a ton of people were shitting on them, telling them what they were building on wasn't like valuable for the future. And then they were right, and price went up a ton, and they were successful. And now they have that same setup where it's like we were confirmed right in our thesis in a massive way, and this aligns with our like not only values, maybe ideological values, but also like we have money invested into this. And so it's like you typically align with where your bags are. Like a lot of people who have a ton of venture dollars or retail have a ton of ETH. They obviously are less likely to think through other theses on why they might be wrong. It does happen a lot more aggressively in crypto. I think the cults form crazy. Like, bro, even Hex has a cult still. It's like, so it doesn't really matter which the coin is. It's more of a human psychology thing.
Yeah, maybe this is bearish me, but like my accountant is a Hexagon.
Oh my
That's
god,
probably
bro, that's terrible. Did he at
no.
least sell some? Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
no, he sold some. Yeah, I
Okay,
think he's
that's better.
less bullish now after the SEC is trying to go after him. But yeah,
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
shit,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy though.
I know. I thought it was kind of hilarious. I mean, he does a good job, but I was like, wait, like, is this good? But anyways, if someone is trying to get into crypto now, like, where do you like? How would you like suggest like where do they go? Like what do they like? How would you recommend someone that wants to, let's say, quote unquote, make it the cycle? Like, what would be some general advice that you would give them?
um, damn, that's a good question. If I think first thing I would do would be to find a small group of friends. If you're completely new to crypto, I'd find a group of people who are also completely new to crypto. So you're not doing research by yourself. So it's helpful to have people to bounce those questions off of that you might think are stupid questions, but you don't really have anybody to ask. And if you have a close friend that you're talking to every day, you can just hit them out like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like, do you know anything about this? What do we do with this? What wallet should we be getting? Have you looked at this airdrop? Have you looked at this protocol? Like, have you tested this out? If you have people that you're just having those conversations with on the regular basis that you can just bounce back and forth with, I think that's really helpful for people starting out, just generally to have that group. Because it can be a lot very overwhelming when you first start out in crypto if you don't have people doing it with you, just because it's completely new information for essentially like it's new information for everybody. So I would do that first, and then after that, probably if you're looking for like TA technicals advice, I probably would look at Crypto Cred on YouTube. He has a really good channel where he goes over a lot of the basics in a way that's easy to understand. Also, Trader Main is really good on YouTube. He has a channel where he goes over stuff and does like weekly streams of the trades he's actually taking in real time, other than just like educational content on TA stuff. So that's helpful for people. Who else is good? Schiller is good. Cold-blooded Schiller. I think his name's Cold Blood Shill now on Twitter.
Yeah,
So he does streams on Twitch, on YouTube. He's good too. Those three guys, if you're trying to just get general information on trading TA, I would look at their stuff. As far as fundamentals on like what you should be like, what's a solid project and what's not a solid project, I would say that's honestly the hardest part generally. I mean, on crypto Twitter, I'd obviously say, but you really have to curate your timeline in a way that your information flow is not just Maxis. And if it is Maxis, you have to make sure it's Maxis of all the different chains. So you may have some ETH Maxis. They give you some good information on ETH, but you're also going to need some Solana Maxis. They give you all the up-to-date stuff on Solana, and then you're going to need some Cosmos guys that are big on that ecosystem. So I would say if you're building a following on like a timeline on crypto Twitter, make sure you do make it a diverse one. And a lot of people have good lists for that. But yeah, I would read through like go actually read the white papers on stuff and listen to interviews with founders. And that's probably the best way you're gonna get, I guess, in-depth knowledge on what all these teams are thinking about building, because if you hear it out of their mouth, they'll go deeper than you're ever gonna get from a few tweets. So the podcasts are good if you can look up them with specific founders. There's a ton of information online if you really go and search for it. And then the Twitter CT is probably best for staying up to date on like what the current news and everything is. So I'll probably do those three things if you're just starting out.
Got it. And you mentioned earlier you like to use TA as part of your analysis. Like, how important is TA to trading breakouts, trying to find lows? Is it like, would you characterize your trading as like 50% TA, 50% fundamentals, or like what's kind of like the split there?
I'll say it's honestly more TA than anything else, because I can have a fundamental thesis, but if the TA doesn't match up with the fundamental thesis, then I'm not taking the trade regardless. So I'll say TA is biggest for me. And then you do need a combination of FA and TA. But yeah, I have my own. You really like with TA, you only can get good at it by doing it a lot. So you're gonna have to take trades. You're gonna have to lose money if you want to get good at being a trader and like learning what works and what doesn't work. It's really just a process of doing it over and over, and seeing how markets respond to certain things, and then seeing what works for you, and being really diligent with journaling all of your entries, all of your thought processes, and just what you think about the market, honestly. But yeah, TA is crucial for me. I don't really use indicators anymore. I purely use price and volume. And I think a lot of traders will tell you after doing it for a while that that's all they really need after probably spending a lot of extra time just trying to figure out which indicator is going to tell you when to buy and when to sell. I would say those, like, TA is biggest for me by far.
Interesting.
It's how you cap all your risk. It's how you determine what your risk is in every trade and how much you're allocating to each trade, when you want to get out, when you want to sell, when you want to buy. Like, all of that is really based on TA. I mean, some news and FA events can affect that, but price is king for me.
Got it. Like, what would you say are common traits of successful traders? I mean, you've been here since 2017. You've seen people blow up. You've seen people just reach great heights. Like, what about them, like, as people? Like what kind of personality traits do they have that make them successful?
The best personality trait for a trader, I would say, is the comfortability with being wrong and being humble. So if you're able to control your emotions when the market is up or the market is down, and to make sound decisions in every different scenario, you're way ahead of the average person. And I say being okay with being wrong, because in trading, you're not going to win every single trade. But if you have good risk, good reward, you only really have to win half of them, or even less than half of them, if you're really good at maximizing your wins to make money. So you could be wrong more than you're right. And for some people that like fucks with their mental, it's really not easier for people to be wrong on a consistent basis, which can happen in trading. But if you're okay with being wrong, like, okay, this idea was not wrong, but I'm just going to keep hammering at it, keep going, keep seeing like what's going to work, what doesn't work, then you're in a much better scenario than people who have aren't able to be wrong. And people who aren't able to be wrong are also the ones who will get stuck in trades and just hold them down, like to whatever percent. I'll say being humble and comfortable being wrong are probably the two biggest things in personality.
Yeah, no, I recently read a book called Best Loser Wins, and I posted like threads on this too. But I think everyone knows how to win, right? Like, when they win, it feels good. But obviously, no one can win all the time. And the best traders or investors, they handle their losses really well. They don't let it affect their future decisions. I think a lot of people, they lose on a trade and they just don't take the next trade for a week because they're emotionally like not there. Like, I wanted to ask this audience question. Let me just pull it up real quick. Yeah, like, tools and techniques to balance trading with other aspects of life. Because I know you have a family, right? Like, how do you balance your mental health? How do you balance other priorities in life? Because if you're not terminally online, you miss things. But like, how do you manage like the pros and cons? And because time is the most precious resource we have, right? So like, how do you utilize your time in this industry?
Yeah, it's hard, bro. I mean, that's the hardest thing for me, honestly, especially in bull markets, when it's like, every second you're away from your computer, you're probably missing some money in some way, whether it's missing research or missing an entry or missing whatever. But I would say that the best way to be diligent with that is to set aside time where you're not going to look at markets at all. So that may be weekends where you don't look at markets. It may be a certain set period of the day where you don't look at markets. But you have to stick to that and have a way of not being fully in all your whatever most degenerate positions all the time. For spot stuff, that's long-term stuff. That's okay, cool. You don't really have to worry about that when you're not paying attention to the market. But for your degen plays, the way that you get caught up in bull markets is you always want to be at your computer if you're doing way, way, way too much degening. So like people need to be at their screen because you know you're in a position that you're going to have to manage like step by step, minute by minute. And that's what you don't want to be. You don't want to be in a situation like that because it's going to take away from all your other like real life responsibilities that you got to take care of. So I'll say, yeah, it's just like having a strict schedule is really important in crypto, and making sure to continue to keep maintain your relationships outside of just the computer. It's weird to say like now if you have never traded a crypto bull market before, but if you have traded a crypto bull market before, you know how easy it can be to get sucked into like those super, super long days where you're looking at charts nonstop. And when you're not looking at charts, you're doing research. And when you're not in research, you're in a group chat. And you're not in a group chat, like you're in another group chat with somebody else. So yeah, you got to be strict about keeping your balance. I think, and it's helpful because it also lets you unplug easier at the end. So like when you think markets may be tops, you may want to like exit your longer term positions. If you're in a state where you are checking markets 18 hours a day, not doing anything else, never logging out, it's a lot harder to pull away and be like, oh, I need to step back and chill out for a second. Whereas if you were doing that, it's like, okay, I'll just do all the other shit that I was doing outside of crypto.
I think people need to understand that the markets will always be here, right? Like even crypto, 24/7 markets. And one of the biggest mistakes I made like last cycle was in 2021. I was just like rotating. I was in the L1 trades, like back and forth, back and forth. And I just felt like, oh, like if it worked last time, like the next time should work as well. And then I bought a bunch of near and I got destroyed.
Yeah, fucking near, bro. Fucking near. Oh my god.
But I think like it's useful to sometimes take a step back and be like, you know what, like I'm not gonna trade for 2 weeks. Like Ansem might be bull posting all day, but I'm okay with that. You have to be self-aware, I think.
Yeah. Like no facts, dude. Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah. Like speaking of, I guess, mistakes. I mean, I just talked about, I guess, like trying to always catch the next thing. But yeah, okay, like just be self-aware. What are the most common mistakes that you see other people make? Feel free to share your mistakes in the past, but like anything that you see all the time that you want people to get better at.
I mean, I think the biggest mistakes people make in crypto is like oversizing in positions. So like going all in heavily can work out if you're right, but it also can work like very terribly if you're wrong. And I think it's much more sustainable longer term to not do that. Like have a longer term portfolio of multiple different things, and then you can do your degen stuff with a smaller percent of your portfolio. Honestly, the common mistakes that I see people make are like leverage stuff, and then on-chain stuff, like being too deep in plays that you can't really cap your risk on. So if you're in trades on like a centralized exchange or even on like purchase on a DEX, you can usually cap your risk to the downside. But it's much more difficult to do that with low cap plays that are extremely volatile. So I've seen a lot of people blow up over doing that. They're probably the two biggest things. Oh yeah, getting too attached to your bags is another huge one. So for people who only trade off FA and don't use TA, they can get stuck in a trap where it's like, I know this is the future, whatever. They may be right, may be wrong. If you're wrong and you don't use any TA to figure out when to exit your positions, you can get stuck just holding stuff down to 80-90%, regardless of what the market is doing. And crypto is in such an early infancy stage that with as volatile as it is, you want to be taking profits when stuff 10x's, regardless of if you think it's the like the next Apple, next Amazon, most of the time you're going to want to be like at least trying to trade cycles a little bit. So being able to time your entries and exits is important, and not getting like attached to your bags regardless of what the market is doing. And then also not getting attached to your theses when the market's telling you that you're not correct is another big one. So
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, it's really easy to get into this bag holder mentality. It's like, if I own this, then I'm bullish. But a question people should ask themselves is, if you hold, let's say, 10% of your portfolio in this coin, if you sold all of it today, like, would you buy back 10%? If the answer is no, then you should cut that position or like reduce the size. And I think that's like a good way to remain objective about the markets. Like, what else do you think are, I guess, like biggest misconceptions about the markets? Like like what do you think, or what do you hear people say about crypto that you think is just like wrong? Like, what do you think about crypto trading that people say is like just absolutely wrong? Do you have any few, some of these things that you think you want to share?
well, I hear people say it's a scam a lot. And I don't think crypto's a scam. I think crypto has a lot of inherent value it's proven over like the past 10 years or so. Like the biggest thing, I think Bitcoin's obviously proven its worthiness as like a form of digital gold, which is important. But also stable coins, I think, are really big too. Like for people in underdeveloped nations who don't have access to the same banking infrastructure that a lot of people in the US and other countries do, like having that ability to send money back and forth without needing to rely on decentralized intermediaries is really big, especially um, where they don't like have that. I think that's huge. And then DeFi, I think it's cool also, like that, not being reliant on um not being reliant on anybody else, like these trustless systems that purely run off code. I think that's huge, like a huge innovation. One of the biggest that we've seen in a while. I think more and more is going to come just from crypto generally. But people calling it a scam, I think they haven't really done their research on why this stuff matters.
Yeah, and I think sometimes like AMMs, like Uniswap Aave. I mean, I think it's pretty incredible, right? Like the permissionless
Yeah,
lending and borrowing. But sometimes people, like, if the Aave token doesn't pump, people don't care, right? Like sometimes they think the token is the product, but the product itself is actually really cool. Do you think we've mostly built like, I mean, for DeFi and like other applications, like we mostly built like the base infrastructure, right? Like, we have AMMs, borrow, lend. Do you think there could be any more innovation on top of that, or do you think that DeFi may be mostly a finished product, and like the next innovation is going to happening deep in gaming, etc.
nah, I think there's a lot more innovation to happen in DeFi. I think there's going to be innovation that happens in DeFi that makes it close to comparable to the same um, speed and cost, or close to it, that you get on trading on centralized exchanges. And we haven't really seen that yet, but I do think we're going to get to a state where that's possible eventually in DeFi. So the AMMs is obviously awesome, it's cool, but there hasn't really been a system that's comparable to the experience you get trading on something like Binance or something like Coinbase yet. And I think we're going to get there at some point, which would be really
Yeah,
cool.
it's like, I think DYDX is like 1 to 3% of like perp volume relative to Binance, but I think we should expect to see decentralized perps gain more market share.
Yeah,
This
for
is,
sure.
yeah. Yeah. So last couple of questions. What are some trading rules you live by?
Damn, trading rules I live by.
Yeah, or that you try to live by.
I mean, the 70-30 thing I talked about, like that portfolio stuff is crucial. I don't really have that many hard set rules other than sticking to what I set out my risk parameters to be when I take trades. So I like try my best to journal like most of the trades that I take. And if I have those invalidations, try my best to stick to those invalidations that I set beforehand. It's probably like the biggest thing for me is like, there's a lot of times where I'm in a trade and I said, if this happens, I'm gonna get out, or if this happens, I'll sell. And if I'm not sticking to those rules, sometimes I'll stay in them longer than I should. And that's like when I typically mess up the most, is when I'm not listening to my previous self, which is why I always say that journaling is the most important. What other rules do I have? I don't know. I don't have really rules around like what times I take trades or trade from your phone or trade from your computer. I do pretty much all of those different types of things. Um, I said that diversification stuff. Yeah, you don't want to be all in. Like obviously, very risky things. So I don't do that anymore. Trying to think what other rules. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I don't really have that many like a strict rule set really. Just have like
Yeah.
a way to take trades. But
Yeah, you have your own system, right? Yeah, I think journaling is also very helpful. I think like everyone that's in the markets, crypto markets, everyone scrolls crypto Twitter, everyone looks at charts, but not everyone takes time to work on themselves. And I think just working on yourself, understanding like what your sentiment was, like, let's say 3 months ago when the markets weren't pumping and comparing right now, I think that's very, very helpful. How important is like gut feel, do you think, to your trading? Like, are there times that you just see something, you're like, I'm just gonna buy, like, or you see
yeah,
something, I'm
snap,
gonna
bro. It
sell.
happens to me all the time. Like snap. I mean that just happens with experience. Like you after you trade for a while, it kind of becomes innate to a point. It's not really something that you know like when it happens, but it does happen for me definitely a lot. Where I'm like, yo, I know I don't really need to think twice. Like I see it and I'm taking it seconds later or like minutes later. Um, and it can be good in crypto when you have the ability to respond to things quickly, but you definitely have to know what you're doing beforehand. Like even when I do have those responses, like snap responses and stuff, I'm not breaking whatever rules I had set prior to. So it's like I can do that because I already know my what my playbook is for that situation.
You have to be humble, right? You have, like, if you have some rules, you just have to, keep it. Like, what's next for you? I mean, you have a big Twitter following. You seem like you're trading crypto really well. Uh, like, what do you want to do? Like after, like when all is said and done, do you have any other ambitions, crypto or not crypto related?
Man, honestly have no clue. I love trading crypto. I think it's fun. I don't think I really want to be in any other industry full time. Don't really think I want to go back to coding. Um, yeah, I'm probably just gonna keep doing this, dude. I don't know if I want to like just keep doing it on my own or work for somebody else doing it. It would have to be in a situation where I can like do all the degen shit I'm doing now. But yeah, dude. I mean, crypto like this. Nothing else really I'm looking to get into right now. Maybe that'll change later, but yeah. Right now I think the most interesting space is crypto, and that's also where like the most volatility and most upside is in crypto. So it's the best market to be trading and the best market to be focused on.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to enjoy it, right? You just have to love the game. Otherwise, you're not going to be, I guess, good enough. So,
Facts. No, it's
yeah,
facts.
couple more questions. I just wanted to pick this question up from the audience. We don't have to do price targets and stuff, but I guess, you know, like what was it like in the past couple of weeks with like the whole Jito airdrop and whatnot? And how does it feel to be a figurehead of the Soylana Manlets? Like, also, where did that come from?
Bro, well, so this summer, I was like obviously tweeting how I was bullish on Soul, whatever, and how I thought it was going to do really well this cycle, and people kept like making fun of all the tweets and be like, "Yo, manlets, blah blah, manlets, this and that, like Soul Eth is down only, like blah blah blah." So I basically just co-opted it and just started using it, because I think it's funny. I think that Soylana manlet shit is fucking hilarious. But I just go out there like, yeah, we're the manlets. It's like whatever, like fuck it. I mean, I don't care. Um, but yeah, it's been cool to see like a lot of people that got their G2 airdrop. It was like more than their entire portfolio. So I told a lot of people to take profit. Obviously, and then like they have their stack now for the cycle. That was like for a lot of people, like Uniswap jump started their portfolios. Whatever when that 2020 when that happened in 2020. And this was the same way for Jito, like all the Solana people that were actively on the chain doing stuff, and everybody told them it was going to zero. They got um, a ton of money just for being active and using these protocols. I want to say that Like if it opened around 2 or something like that, and I think the lowest allocation was like 5,000 details. So the lowest, like if you just insta sold, was like 10K. And a lot of people benefited from that, which is cool to see. Like I got a ton of DMs from people being like, "Thank you, yo! Like I did this, because you said it was like cool." That's been cool, but I don't know as far as like what I think. I don't really have a price target. I've been saying 0.1 ETH just because that's easier for me to see it growing against Ethereum. I think last cycle ETH was 20% of the total crypto market cap at the top, and Solana was like 2.5% of the total crypto market cap. And I think it's going to be a larger percent towards the end of this cycle than it was last cycle. So it's easier for me to say like 0.1 ETH compared to Ethereum. I just think they're going to be closer than they are currently. What was the other part? What was the other part of the question? Have I sold? I haven't sold. I know I haven't sold my G2 allocation. Yeah, I haven't sold mine yet. But I feel like the situation's different for everyone. Like if it's a big part of your portfolio, then obviously it makes sense to take profit on it. But yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, I just want to share this tweet that you said, or I guess you took a screenshot of, I think it's your Telegram, where
Yeah.
the Cosmos ecosystem is new to me. Why the fuck are there so many chains? I feel like this is one problem I think Ether has, right? Like in the Ethereum ecosystem, there's NFTs, there's DeFi, there's L2 tokens, and whenever there are inflows, it like gets spread across everywhere. But whereas for like Solana, it's like Sol and Jito, and like maybe some like Mad Labs NFTs or something. And for like Atom, it's like there's like so many of these. Like Celestia is probably going to be worth more than Atom at this point.
Yeah.
Like, do you think about do you think about this when it comes to trading? If money comes into this ecosystem, it has to go into these plays. So I have to buy. And like I guess like is this like what are your thoughts on Cosmos? Because I know you used to be pretty bullish.
Yeah, I am bullish Cosmos. I'm still bullish Cosmos this cycle. But yeah, it's difficult. The reason it's difficult for people to be bullish on Cosmos is because you have to do a ton of different research to figure out what each and every chain does. And then people hear Cosmos and they think, oh, Cosmos Hub, which is just Atom. And Cosmos is an internet of blockchains. Like it's way more reflective of each chain doing its own thing. So there's not really one chain to rally around in the Cosmos the same way that there's one chain to rally around for Ethereum and all the ETH maxis. I think that's kind of like why it's harder for people to be like, what Cosmos is bullish? Like, what does that even mean? It's kind of harder for people to see that thesis. But yeah, I'm still bullish on Cosmos for this cycle. I think there's a lot of the newer chains that'll do well. We kind of seen Celestia kind of start that off these past couple months. I think you're going to also see some of the other L1s that launch do well also. But yeah, Cosmos is funny, bro.
Yeah. Like, so, I do another podcast called Steady Lads, and I do it with like Jordy. And Jordy has this idea around L1 tokens as community money, because how do you value either, right? It makes money, but the P ratio is insane. How do you value Sol? How do you value all these tokens? But maybe Ether is a shelling point for the community to rally around, and people just take profits at the Ether. And over time, it's a good barometer of the average wealth of the crypto natives. And Solana, I have no idea how to value it, but maybe it's a shelling point for, like, let's say, the monolithic thesis. Like, how do you think about valuations? Do you think it really matters? Is it more just bets, like very forward-looking bets, and like 0.1 ETH, like Solana to 0.1 ETH? How do you use like valuation frameworks?
Honestly, I don't have an objective way of being like, this is going to 100 billion market cap or this is going to 200 billion market cap. Because I think crypto is so early that you can't really use P&E and all these other metrics to try and figure out where they're going to go, because you're mostly betting on the growth of all of these blockchains or these protocols. They're still in like super, super early growth stages. And I think in that stage, you're not going to do well if you're purely trying to do targets based off profits. But what's a lot easier for me is doing comparative valuation. So it's like if ETH is whatever, 250 billion and Solana's only 10 billion, I'm like, well, I think Solana is better than ETH in these few things. It may not be as decentralized as ETH or as secure as ETH in this way. But in my head, it's like, okay, I think it's going to capture some bigger market share comparable to ETH. And that's what I do a lot in crypto is I do pair trades in that way where it's like, even if I'm not fully directionally correct at the time, if I'm right on like Sol gaining against Ethereum and I may be short some other asset on the other side, that's like a lot easier for me to make those bets in that way. And I do that a lot in crypto with altcoins and with majors. It's like I may be long something, but I'm also short something on the other side because I'm not exactly sure how high it's going to go. But I know I think this is overvalued or undervalued compared to the other asset. And I do that a lot. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't have a strict way for figuring out what price is going to go to. But that's why I use TA more than any other, more than anything else, because I can see how tops form in real time and see how bottoms form in real time and have a good way of betting on directionally where I think things are going to go, rather than trying to figure out what random price stuff is going to go to. That's why price targets are always weird for me. It's like, I don't know how high it's going to go. Like, how do you put a metric, or like, how do you guess how much speculative premium some asset's going to get? Because every asset gets speculative premium outside of just its like base fundamentals. If I Cardano last cycle, I couldn't even do anything on it. Couldn't even use the chain, and it went fucking, I don't know, like 50 billion or something crazy like that. So it's like, especially in crypto, it's hard to guess how crazy that speculative premium is going to get, which is why I use TA more than I use anything else, because that's the best way to see that human psychology on the chart.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, last question I have for you. First of all, thank you, right, for taking the time. What are you most excited for in 2024?
Most excited for the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. That's the thing I'm most excited.
I mean, you guys lost 2 games in a row, right? Like, what's going on? You lost to Purdy.
We just got smacked twice, bro. 49ers and the Cowboys. But yeah, I'm excited for crypto next year, honestly. I think like we've shook off a lot of the bad things that happened in 2022 and recovered a ton. Like Bitcoin's up over 2x, ETH's up over 2x, Solana's up a ton. And a lot of these other chains have also done well. So I'm excited for that to continue, and like the band-aid that happened with crypto in 2022 getting completely ripped off. And then after the Bitcoin spot ETF, if that gets approved, which is likely in Q1, I'm excited to see how open people are to other aspects of crypto outside of just Bitcoin, and how that looks in the media, and with other like traditional money coming into the space. So I'm just excited for crypto in general. I don't know if I have a certain sector I'm the most excited about. I think DeepN is cool. I really want to figure out the AI side of things. So I don't really have a strong AI X crypto play yet, but that's something I'm trying to figure out too.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too, but everything just seems like vaporware. But it just pumps so hard. what is going on?
Yeah.
But maybe there's product market fit there. All right. Anyways, yeah. Thank you, Ansem. Hopefully I can have you again another time. But congrats on all your theses playing out, and hopefully 2024 is much better. Or it continues the same way.
Facts. All right, man. Thanks for having me.